I want to talk today about the blanket project. This is a project that has been in the works for a long time. It's a continuing project. And so far I've done two pieces. And the first one is called Intersections, and the second one is called Interrupted. Both of them are made with recycled wool blankets. And I have been in the process of collecting old worn wool blankets that have been loved and cherished and battered throughout the years to make these projects. The blanket series is a collection of works that are abstract wall reliefs. And thus far I have made two works in that series. The first one is called Intersections, and the second one is called Interrupted. They are both made using reclaimed wool blankets that have been cut apart and dyed and made into strips and then stitched together. And I worked both of those pieces on this wall directly behind me, pinning the strips and sewing and pinning and sewing. And both compositions were made intuitively. There wasn't a plan that I was working off of. I was just really working with the negative and positive spaces and the textures of the wool blanket, the flexibility of them as I was creating the work. I associate wool blankets with time and place and memory and the environment. They have a function, kind of a dual function, where they provide protection for us, and they provide that physical protection, from cold or from wind or rain, but they also provide an emotional protection. And that, of course, applies to blankets across the board, not just wool blankets. But wool blankets have a very specific, versatile function because they're so durable. Wool is naturally repellent against water. It is flame retardant. We have built houses and insulation and rugs and blankets and clothing from this really simple but extremely complex fiber. And we have evolved with sheep for thousands of years and have been dependent on them as sources for food and warmth. So it's the wool blankets that I'm specifically interested in exploring. Collecting these wool blankets is a really interactive element of this project. Sometimes they are donated to me by friends, they're coming to me with a particular story, or other times they're just these anonymous blankets that are finds, whether it's in an estate sale or a thrift shop or something like that. And so there's this combination where sometimes part of the story, or sometimes you don't know what the story was at all. But when you think about the role that blankets play in our lives, you know that there are profound experiences wrapped up in them. When, we're born and wrapped in blankets, and we die and we're wrapped in blankets. And, cloth is used in ceremonies. The military uses wool blankets. So there's, in other words, wool blankets see these really beautiful and really horrific experiences in the human life and carry that throughout them within their woven structure. In many ways, wool blankets are like the keepers of our body, and in ways that we fold or unfold wool blankets is very much the way that our brains fold and unfold our memories. And memories, we know now that memories aren't static. They don't change the same. They're constantly changing with our neurochemistry. So that's where the part of why take these beautiful wool blankets and cut them up into pieces and change the color and do all this, manipulation of the material. And I tie that directly to what happens with our memories. And it's not just our memories as we age, but just our memories as we're going through our life and how things get shifted around in our brains. So that act of manipulating the material to create these compositions where there are literally holes in them, there's this negative space and this positive space. In a lot of ways, those lines of these compositions of the Blanket Project are like those neuro pathways, or they're just pathways or intersections to how all of these events and experiences of our life connect and lead to some other road, or lead to this road, or to this event happening. When I first made Intersections was in 2010, and I was just starting to work full time as an artist, and I was really excited about this project, and it ended up in a couple exhibitions, and so there seemed to be a lot of momentum. But as one project led to another, it wasn't until 2013 that I was able to have the time and attention to kind of go back to that core idea. So there's been this idea, incubating, kind of undercurrent in so much of my work. I'm using similar processes, whether it's hand spun wool yarn or I'm actually dyeing the wool fabric, it's all kind of coming back to the sheep, but it's also coming back to these lines and the way they all intersect. But memory has been a sort of whether it's a recording or a documentation or, a more kind of abstract conceptual take on what happens to our memories, and noticing that just, as I age or as other people in my life age, just kind of how noticing those increments of changes. And it's not even because somebody has a memory problem, it's just the way that our brains function. It's part of what is happening in our biology and our physiology. And that is very interesting to me, kind of where all of that comes together. And that's what really the focus of the Blanket Project is kind of, hanging on to that core foundation of what the role that blankets play in our lives, and really how that relates to the way that we're living our lives.